Hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for July 20th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 202. I am Mayor Watt, and that is the co-host, the Sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Non Sequitur News.
Today we're going to be talking about Bethesda fully unionizes, CrowdStrike outage scams, tricked into betting on betting firm, is Google broken, invasive species in Colorado River, don't leave these in a hot car, Montana town's economy withers, the happiest strike on Earth, finding new things to do in Baldur's Gate 3, and a couple of cloud tech failures. What's a couple of cloud tech failures amongst friends? That and more. All right, folks. So today is July 20th, but it's a Saturday, and that means that tomorrow we'll have 7 shows tomorrow, starting somewhere around 11 o'clock. So we're going to have Non Sequitur News tomorrow, Reality Hacker, Wanted, WarCrafters, the Continuity Report, Technology Today, and Four Wheel Tech. I may rejigger those depending on how things flow. I don't know. We've actually changed the day that 3 of those shows run. Instead of doing it across the weekend, we do it all on Sunday. Because they're weekly shows, we figured we'd just pin it all, or I figured we'd pin it all together. You can go and download the podcast, and to get those, you can hit !pod over in twitch.tv/ohmTown. It's supposed to work in YouTube, but I haven't logged in there to do that. And if you want the show notes, you type in !show notes. See, this communicates with ohmTown, the bot that manages the channels. That'll give you all of the syntax to get the show notes from each show that we actually run. And then today's episode of Non Sequitur News is NSN, and so you can get all of the articles from that. Ta-da! Hey, and it's in the order they're supposed to be. Congratulations, ohmTown. You're not psychotic today. You ready to get into the show?
I am.
All right. First article. It's over in WarCrafters. It's one of our shows. Talks about games, RPGs, first-person shooters, role-playing games. I'm really into survival base building games. I'm actually playing Throne and Liberty in the open beta right now. It's a lot of fun. May not be my forever game, but
what is, right?
Nothing is, right? Living the dream. I don't know. My throat got really dry all of a sudden. Allergies. Production value, folks. Production value is the only thing, the only driving force here in ohmTown. All right. Anyway, Bethesda officially becomes the first Microsoft game studio to fully unionize. Nothing says acquisition and maybe signs of overworking and underpaying and the possibility of mass layoffs again and raising costs and I don't know. All kinds of stuff, I suppose. Don't know what's really going on in Bethesda, but Bethesda Game Studios is officially the first Microsoft game developer to fully unionize under the Communication Workers of America, forming a wall-to-wall union of developers, including artists, engineers, programmers, designers, and Microsoft has recognized the union. Guess they can't not recognize it.
Right, they're kind of required to do that.
We don't believe in you. No. So the union was confirmed.
I'm not sure this is a claim to fame you want as a company, right? It's probably good for the workers, but it's probably not a good sign for the company, right?
Well, it's kind of like the doctor looking at you and going, interesting. No, you don't want to be interesting. The union was confirmed after 241 developers either signed a union authorization card or indicated that they wanted unionization via an online portal. It follows Bethesda Game Studios' Montreal unionization in late June and the unionization of roughly 300 quality assurance workers within ZeniMax. One second.
I mean, I wonder if they're following what we've seen in other industries, or is this completely just based on problems there?
I think it's just an industry, like a change in attitude, because more and more is getting merged and acquired and acqui-hired for certain talent, and that talent might be on board, but the rest of the people are being marginalized and pushed out because the bigger the organization, perhaps the less opportunity you have, although some would say that there's more opportunity, but that's kind of hit or miss depending on where you fall in the spectrum of we want you versus, oh crap, they're coming along.
Right, or oh no, layoffs are coming.
Yep, and that's usually what happens. Then prices rise, and then options fade. It's almost like they're a lunar rover that's going to get parted out. So you unionize. Oh, did I connect two dots that I should? Okay, well, break out the yarn board.
News.
So we, a majority of developers at Bethesda Game Studios Dallas, Rockville, and Austin, are ecstatic to announce the formation of our titular union. No, it's not titular. I just like using that word. It's fun to say. Our union with at CWA Union, the group wrote on Twitter, together with one BGS USA, which is really funny. One BGS USA. We advocate for the betterment of every developer at BGS, setting the new standard for our industry. So now you got to negotiate a contract. And if you're not under any contract, then however long it takes to negotiate that contract, there's going to be a freeze in everything, policy, procedure, duties, etc. Everything sits until there is an agreement that's negotiated and all the parties agree. So things are probably going to just kind of stale on the vine there.
Right, we'll which see. Also means how much are we going to really see out of that studio in the short term?
In the short term, yeah. But you know how short term turns into long term, because if it doesn't hit, if certain metrics and certain budgetary constraints aren't met, then it gets pushed or it gets closed entirely. I'm curious about what the costs are going to be to the end users, because all of this costs money and they're going to have to make more.
Correct, and we already know the games are prices are skyrocketing, so
yeah, it's pretty pricey.
We'll see.
Unionization is a growing trend, according to the article. Within the games industry, as workers seek protection against mass layoffs. See what we were just talking about. And Sega of America's union ratified a contract earlier this year. Activision's QA workers announced a union of their own. Microsoft said it previously would not block potential Activision Blizzard union, which, good luck. The only way it's going to happen is if something turns violent, which seemingly extends to Bethesda Game Studio as well. The article is by Kat Bailey over at IGN.com. I failed to mention that at the very beginning, which I normally do, but I was just so excited to start the show. All right. that silence is the Sentient AI going, what the... Mayor Watt had...
Too much caffeine before the show.
I ate a Pez.
Or not enough.
I ate a Pez. Or 5. Anyway, let's move on. The next article is over in Reality Hacker. Don't fall for CrowdStrike outage scams. Hey, y'all. Click with care. Don't be a bonehead. So just because you get an email saying something about CrowdStrike, don't believe it. Just don't believe it. Follow up with your network manager. Follow up with your security professionals, whoever they may be in your institution. Talk to a superior, a manager, a director, somebody. Don't just click on shit that shows up. Stuff. Don't just click on stuff that shows up in your email box. Don't answer a phone call that purports to be something that you have to do immediately because of CrowdStrike. Nothing.
Yeah, especially something that asks for your data. I don't know.
Right. Nothing. If somebody purports to call you from your office or from some location, go, you know what? I'll call you back. And then call that organization's contact number and say, hey, you can take their information if they're not willing to provide it so that you can call them back. Don't take their number and call their number. You call your organization's numbers. you'll get a person and they'll go, we don't know who the hell that is. And lo and behold,
and
you just
we
saved
didn't
yourself.
call you either.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you're some financial manager within that organization and you're getting a whole bunch of phone calls about CrowdStrike, you can safely ignore them unless you know the person directly, and you can call them back at their number, not some other number they give you. Essentially, trust but verify. And if you need somebody to prod you, to remind you of this, you really should go over and become a citizen of ohmTown. That might be one of the things that kicks off here in ohmTown. A kind of reminder about cybersecurity practices, but it's going to be soft rolled. Basically a little ping. Click with care. Don't be a dummy. Anyway, swindlers are spinning up bogus websites in an attempt to dupe people with CrowdStrike support scams following the security firm's catastrophic software update. By the way, I found out today that this isn't a one-hit wonder. Oh no. We've got a twofer.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to talk about that on the other side of this. This article is by Lily Hay Newman at wired.com. Yeah. Because there are sociopaths out there that like to take advantage of people, you might be getting an email or a phone call or something saying, you got to click this. You got to do it now. It's the end of the world.
Yeah, if anybody's ever saying that to you, it's probably not.
Yeah. Put the phone on mute and set it down. And when they realize that you're just not paying any attention to them, they'll hang up, they'll stop bothering you. They might move on to somebody else. Who knows? Anyway, researchers on Friday afternoon began warning that attackers are reserving domain names and starting to spin up websites and other infrastructure to run CrowdStrike support scams targeting the company's customers and anyone who might be impacted by the chaos. CrowdStrike's own researchers also warned about the activity on Friday and published a list of domains seemingly registered to impersonate the company, all of which will get pulled back and probably either given to CrowdStrike or blocked in some way. Because cyber squatting is verboten, and it's pretty obvious when it happens. So attackers inevitably take advantage of prominent global events as well as topical issues in specific geographic areas to try to trick people into sending them money, steal target account credentials, or compromise victims with malware.
You know, it's not enough that all your systems are down or your travel's disrupted or your banking's disrupted or whatever. On top of that, you might be scammed.
Yeah, because there are some people out there that just don't know how to do anything but grift, but steal, but be a criminal, and just not caught yet. Researchers, including those from CrowdStrike Intelligence, have thus far seen attackers sending phishing emails. Oh, that sounds familiar. I think Mayor Watt said don't click on stuff, trust but verify. Making phone calls where they pretend to be CrowdStrike support staff. You know, I remember Mayor Watt saying, don't click on that. Don't when somebody answers or somebody calls me, don't just start giving personally identifiable information or valid information for that fact. Ask for their name and office, and then call them at their office that you know they exist in, not the phone number that they give you.
Well, most companies, when they have to alert you of something really awful, they typically send you a letter. But everybody seems to think when somebody calls you and starts asking for your information, it's the company that they say it is.
Yeah, that's true to some degree. It's not imperative enough. See, a physical letter isn't fast enough. So you have to make that call and make it sound like it's the end of the world. You must click this now. You must answer me immediately. The world is coming to an end. The building is on fire because we have a blue screen of death in one of the servers somewhere in, Virginia. Anyway, speedy alerts to employees outlining potential risks will help, Callow says. Callow is, where is it? I missed their name.
Callow is a member of the State Bar of New York. Jerry Callow, to be specific.
I thought you said Gallo. Yeah, no, he's been dead for years. Stop it. That's from Brett Callow, by the way. It was Brett Callow. My cousin Vinny Callow, Jerry Callow, right? That was his name, Jerry.
Yes, I can't remember which way it went, but there was the callow and the gallow variation.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, if speedy alerts are supposed to be sent out to people, those speedy alerts can actually take the form of a phishing attempt. Plus, if I can't get it in my company email because I have a blue screen of death on my work computer, guess what? Doesn't work. Doesn't help. But anyway,
I
good
always
luck.
like those things where it's like, report this issue to your IT department or whatever using this online form or something. You're like, I can't get on my computer.
It builds character. Send a carrier pigeon. Moving on. Next article's over in Technology Today. A £53 million gamble. Billionaire's firm claims it was tricked into buying UK online betting firm that was worth nothing. Internet betting tycoon Teddy Saggy's multi-million pound acquisition of a gaming firm now allegedly worth nothing is the subject of a court case involving heavily contested claims of fraud and physical threat. Ensconced within the luxury of his $30 million Knightsbridge pad overlooking Hyde Park, the billionaire Teddy Saggy laid his cards on the table. "I have a big pair of balls," he proclaimed. I'm assuming that he's talking about a basketball or tennis balls or something, brass ones maybe on his table. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but anyway, according to documents filed in the High Court, "I lost £300,000 in the casino last night. I will buy your business for £53 million. For the man on the other side of the negotiating table, the online gambling entrepreneur Simon Wilson, the stakes had never been higher. So this is a really interesting article. It's over at theguardian.com. The internet tycoon, betting tycoon, Teddy Saggy's multi-million pound acquisition of a gaming firm now allegedly worth nothing is the subject of this court case. So Wilson was no minnow. He had shrewdly capitalized on the online gambling boom of the early 21st century, transforming his business In Touch Games from a supplier of high street slot machines and jukeboxes into a thriving digital gaming company with almost 5 million customers and a sponsorship deal with West Bromwich Albion. So now he is contemplating the deal of his life. Sparring with one of the betting world's most fabled figures, Saggy boasts an estimated net worth of $6.4 billion, amassed chiefly through Playtech, the gaming software development company he grew from a small outfit founded in Estonia in 1999 into a global business. But it's gambling. So anyway, there's a lot more in this article that's talking about what went down. But it says in the summer of 2021, as much as the country was enjoying England's progress of the final of football's European Championship, ITG was sweating. The hot breath of the Gambling Commission had been on its neck since 2017 when the regulator began an investigation that resulted, after 2 tense years, in a forced $2.2 million settlement. Its transgressions included poor monitoring of whether online casino players might be suffering from a gambling problem, as well as lax money laundering checks that did not assess the risks of customers using cryptocurrencies. It's weird that this kind of an organization is responsible for monitoring if somebody has a gambling problem. And as for money laundering checks, isn't there something else like banking institutions?
Right. It seems odd that it has to come down to them. But maybe this is one of these industries that's targeted. Well, I'm sure it is for money laundering. So maybe there's extra requirements put on them. I don't know.
I guess.
And they do a lot of cash typically, right? Or no,
well, it's
maybe
electronic
wire transfers.
Yeah,
that's
have to be wire
transfers.
So, I mean, if they do it all through various other locations and then transfer it in, and it's never through like UK banks, then I suppose that could be the problem, that everything is being kind of filtered through.
Like they have a UK footprint
digital
or
presence,
incorporation or whatever. Yeah.
So as it pursued growth, ITG was relatively unusual in its apparent failure to turn over new leaf after falling afoul of the regulator. It required special attention. The Commission's solution was to impose a third-party audit of the company's paperwork. Risk management and consultancy group RSM UK was appointed in March of 2021 to check that ITG was really doing everything possible to prevent problem gambling and reduce the risk of money laundering. Again, it's just those two things. So I don't know how you stop somebody from gambling when your purpose as a gambling organization is to promote gambling. Hey, I guess that like a bar putting a red light on somebody who's had too much to drink.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So apparently a deal begins to turn sour within months. First, in January 2023, the Commission hit ITG with the company's biggest fine yet, $6.1 million penalty for failures that took place in March 2022. In August 2023, the Gambling Commission wrote to ITG, now under Skywind's ownership. The regulator had received information suggesting that ITG had knowingly altered documents in advance of the crucial favorable audit by RSM in 2021, the one that found ITG was improving its compliance measures. A week later, a raid on the office, by which now moved to Birmingham, the Commission found evidence that driving licenses attached to customer accounts may have been forged in internal systems for the audit. Wow. So, yeah, apparently Skywind was not entirely ignorant of fraud allegations when it bought ITG. Indeed, it claims state that Skywind executives discussed the whistleblower's accusations. There was a whistleblower mentioned just in the paragraph above with Wilson during takeover negotiations, but Skywind says its due diligence had not identified any fraud as it had been intentionally hidden.
So they were essentially aware of the potential fraud, and then like none was turned up, so they proceeded with the deal.
Apparently, yep. And Skywind says that the Midlands entrepreneur dismissed the accusations as untrue and put them down to a personal grudge on the part of the whistleblower. As always, a whistleblower likes to do exactly that. So Skywind acquired ITG in good faith, having conducted thorough due diligence and in reliance upon express representations made by the original owners. However, an elaborate and detailed fraud which took place prior to the acquisition was deliberately hidden from Skywind. This fraud was uncovered with the assistance of specialist forensic accountants. The company highlighted the decision by another shareholder in ITG to voluntarily return their share of the sale proceeds to avoid legal proceedings, a move Skywind said indicated acceptance that a fraud had taken place. So this article goes on for a little while. So now the High Court must adjudicate in a dispute that aims to sift through the wreckage of a bitter three-way dispute between entrepreneurs who have made a living from gambling and mostly winning. All bets are off. So whatever this deal was, it doesn't seem like the price is commensurate with what the profits seem to have been. I guess it's just one little website, right?
Yeah, that just doesn't really make sense to me. Also, the fines don't seem to be significant enough, like unless the company is going to go under.
Well, that's just it. That fine is 10% of its overall value.
True, but if you're in gambling, are you making that much back in a year or something? I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if it's big enough, but $53 million for something that apparently is owned by a billionaire, for crying out loud, and was a focus, right? Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be more there to this, and I'm sure that we'll find out about it as we move on. Let's move on. The next article is over in Technology Today. Google says, "I'm a dead physicist. Is the world's biggest search engine broken? For decades now, anyone who wanted to know anything about anyone has asked Google, and Google me. They didn't know they were dead until they saw it on Google. When they searched their name, there it was, a picture of their smiling face next to the text. Tom Faber was a scientist and publisher, and he was a university lecturer at Cambridge for 35 years, and apparently they died on July 27th, 2004 at age 77. News to them.
Wow. That must be really odd.
Yeah. And so they write this article over at theguardian.com. Tom Faber is the author of this. So they asked, is Google broken? So they may create what is called a knowledge panel, a little box with basic information taken from Wikipedia. Somewhere along the way, the algorithm had confused their picture with a biography of another person who shared their name. According to their obituary, it was a distinguished physicist with a literary hinterland. Okay. Google provides a feedback form to resolve the type of bug. They filled it in several times, but made no difference. So I've kind of assumed for certain information, personally identifiable information, you can't really trust it. And if you go off of it just ramshot, you're going to end up assuming the wrong thing. So you always have to do some due diligence. And connection-wise is built entirely off of a multitude of data points. But if it can grasp at straws and utilize them to build a house of cards, then it will. I know from direct anecdote, I'll just call it anecdote, that it correctly, but without permission, connected people that shouldn't have been connected. And so from that point on, I've been really disenchanted with anything that's personally identifiable. I just look for facts. Now you can do that with AI. If you want instructions on how to find something in an app, you can ask AI. You don't have to Google it. If you want some information, you can just use AI. Google is trained to integrate AI. And so when it sits there and says, you died, it may be because it's taking AI-built data and munging it all together into this hot mess, and then it outputs what is accepted as fact, and nobody does the trust but verify element of it. So yet it's hard to imagine anything taking Google's place. Last year it turned 25, and Alphabet, its parent company, currently ranks as the fourth most valuable company in the world, worth $2 trillion. Apple is somewhere, I think, around $3 trillion now. Google has a whopping 90% share of the global search market. More than a tool, it practically is infrastructure, the connective tissue that is fundamental to how we find information online. Primarily, yes. And it's built that off of it started out as a DARPA research project and turned into a commercial enterprise to catalog the world with a whole lot of investment, and then going IPO years and years ago. I should have stayed in it. The thing is just a juggernaut, and everybody that is anybody basically puts a Google tracker on their website so that they can get telemetry. But it's self-fulfilling prophecy for Google, as it promotes whatever is popular and not necessarily correct.
Right. Well, yeah, it has so much data, and obviously some of it's accurate, some of it's not, but also good luck trying to get anything accomplished with Google, because you can't actually reach people, and it's so big that it's almost a joke trying to contact them.
Yeah, not until you're really big. So Cory Doctorow, an author, activist, mordant critic of big tech, explains the company's ad system is like, say I have an 18 to 34-year-old man-child in central London who's got an Xbox and has been searching for information about a STD, who will pay to advertise to this person. Advertisers or bots bid for placement, and the winners serve you an ad. Many of Google's products, besides search, from YouTube to Maps, collect data on users, which enables personalization of your ads. This model is the foundational example of what technology commentator Shoshana Zuboff has called surveillance capitalism. This is stuff that I talk about regularly as well. You cannot go anywhere. Target, for instance, sent a coupon to an underage girl congratulating her about her pregnancy because her purchasing habits changed within the company. And guess what? She was. but still, dad didn't know, and she was underage. Last year, it's not Google's, not Target, but Google's parent company, Alphabet, earned 77% of its revenue from them, that surveillance capitalism, the ads. That's $237.85 billion. Along the way, the company accrued not just economic power, but also social and political power. And this is what people refer to as regulatory capture. Rosie Graham, a lecturer in contemporary literature and the digital at the University of Birmingham, says we don't just ask Google for information, but also ways to live our lives. When we look for answers to social, religious, or political questions, Google judges who are the trusted voices. This is what I said 5 minutes ago.
Right, it's serving up the popular information, or even what it thinks we want.
Yep, and it's driven by popularity, and that popularity is driven by money. So it'll weigh what is going to convert, and hope that you click on various ads along the way. And all of the websites are providing telemetry. So yeah, it is a thing. And there's much more to it. And I wish that I could spend, a whole hour talking about this with people. And I invite you to come to the chat here on twitch.tv and YouTube. And we can talk about it more, but I can't spend the whole show talking about this. But you are encouraged to follow the link that basically claims that somebody is dead because it's merged or munged together a bunch of data and made it de facto. And it's just not true. You have to trust but verify. It goes back to the click with care concept. You just cannot trust the information that is online until you find additional sources. And I tell people when they're doing research into something, you need to find multiple sources that claim the same thing and don't have some ideological bias that contaminates what the result is. Don't go into it looking for the solution you think you already know. You have to gather the information and go, wow, all of these legitimate sources say one thing, but I went into it thinking something different. And it's actually why I built a search engine 20 years ago. But I was a still am one-person show, really, wherein you needed a lot of money, you needed a lot of startup capital, a lot of technical engineering prowess to bring a search engine online. And it was more complex than I was willing to work with partners to do. But we need more. We need more competition that doesn't rely on something pinging back to the solution. If that helps you understand what I'm trying what I'm trying to say is, when the solution is making money off of your website pinging back to the provider of information, if the results can't be returned with factual information, it will return whatever so that you click and stay, because it generates money for the company. So what we really need is a socially driven, factual search engine, kind of like Cliff's Notes, where we know that the information that's contained within it are the facts of the information that is written about it.
Aren't we getting farther away from that because of the use of AI and search engines?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
By the way, this might be a future Patreon episode.
Yeah, that's true. Because there's a lot here. There is so much inside this article. It goes way beyond the scope of it being a short discussion.
Is this from The Guardian?
This is The Guardian, yeah.
Yeah, they usually do pretty in-depth articles.
And honestly, I wish that I could continue, but I think that it is a long-term read and a longer-term discussion, maybe a show in and of itself. So let's keep going. The next article is over in the Marble Channel. Invasive species discovered in Colorado River is capable of wiping out ecosystems and causing costly damage. As if wiping out an ecosystem isn't costly enough. an invasive species capable of wiping out entire aquatic ecosystems and causing millions of dollars in damage to infrastructure, has been found for the first time in the Colorado River, the most important river in the American Southwest. Anybody want to take a stab at where this is coming from?
You mean where the species is getting to the Colorado River?
Yeah, what is the species, like what is the country of origin, the region of origin that this thing came from, whatever it is?
Probably China. Well, yeah, maybe China.
And that's what it is, right? Isn't that the zebra mussels?
It is, but I don't remember how they actually got to the U.S., but I know other things have gotten there on shipping.
Yeah.
Containers, etc.
So Elise Schmelzer over at the Denver Post put the article together at phys.org. Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials on July 16th announced the discovery of zebra mussel larvae in the river east of Grand Junction. The mussels are nearly impossible to remove and pose an extreme risk to the critical river, its wildlife, and its infrastructure. The stuff jams up pipes and outflows, inflows. It jams up power plants and all kinds of stuff because it grows and is very resistant to removal.
Like predator. Well, also, I think
there's no predator.
Not many predators. Yeah.
Yep. So the Colorado River, known as the lifeblood of the Southwest, flows from headwaters in Rocky Mountain National Park to the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of California in Mexico, and makes modern life in the region possible. The river and its major tributaries provide drinking water and power for 40 million people, irrigate millions of acres that feed the country, and provide crucial habitat for thousands of species. Native to Eastern Europe, zebra mussels obliterate ecosystems by eradicating basic food sources other species rely on. The small mussels attach to hard surfaces like rocks and grow in thick mats that kill plants and prevent insect life. The mussels feed on algae. And it says stip, all of it out of the water. Stip. I don't think I've heard that term before.
I don't know what that is.
Eliminating the base of the food chain in many aquatic ecosystems. Food sources are destroyed for species that rely on aquatic vegetation, insects, or algae, which is all species. True. So no species in the western U.S. has evolved to eat the mussels either. At least not reliably. So there you go. Let's see if there's anything else in this article. And there's more, right? Villagers is what it's called, the little stuff that zebra mussels grow from.
I can't find that term, by the way. Not in that usage.
Interesting. Yep. So this is a first. Biologists first discovered zebra mussels in the United States in 1988 in the Great Lakes region. This is something that we've talked about previously, but now it's moved to the Colorado. So something had to have dumped that into the Colorado.
Right. There couldn't have been a direct connection, but
boats in the Colorado.
It could have been, yeah.
Boats in the Great Lakes go over to the Colorado, and you end up having the zebra mussels get deposited, the larvae come off the boat.
Yeah, but they would have had to go across land or something.
Yeah, you pull a boat out of the water. And
it's still possible. Yeah, I just meant it wasn't like it just was a tributary or something, and so
it could have been in a bilge pump. The larva could have been in a bilge pump, and then they just dumped it out, and off you go. So
exactly.
Humans, forensically, we are dirty animals. Anyway, it's possible the mussels aren't faring well in the Colorado River, and the detected villagers, not villagers, the villagers are revolting. No, the villagers.
I thought it was the illagers.
The illagers, yes. Will not establish a population, said Keller, the Loyola professor, but that scenario is highly unlikely, especially with a robust population of the quagga mussels further downstream. So there's going to be some lunch for the zebra mussels. So I wouldn't hold out too much hope for that species to not take off, says the person. Oof. Let's keep going. We're running behind. Next article's over in Non Sequitur News. These common items could pose a danger if left in hot cars. It's still summer, folks. So
is it
careful.
crayons?
Yeah, Mayor Watt. Mayor Watt's left in a hot car. Watch out. He bites. Everyday items left inside hot cars could pose significant danger. Don't leave plastic bottles in your car. They off-gas into the liquid. Julia Jacobo, Daniel Peck put the article together over at abcnews.go.com. Says water bottles, for example, pose unique hazards when temperatures begin to climb. One of the unexpected risks of the water bottle is specifically clear water bottles that contain clear liquid is that they could start a fire because they act as magnifying glasses. Yeah, pretty interesting, right? You wouldn't think that, but yeah. Depending on the presence of sunlight, the reflective qualities of the bottle and liquid can heat up nearby objects to the point of fire ignition if hot enough, and there's enough circulation. Otherwise, it'll smoke. So he tested it out in a controlled environment and found out that the water bottle was able to burn a hole through a piece of paper like a magnifying glass. Yeah, you do that. You're trained in that for survival.
I wouldn't think most people would realize that, though, right? They don't think of something associated with water as catching fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly the plastic could, but yeah.
Yep. Chances are pretty small, but it's not impossible. Ingesting liquid that's been baking inside a plastic container in a hot car for a period of time can also impact your health. It's just not healthy. Then microplastics break off and it off-gases into the liquid. You can taste that if you ever have left a water bottle in your car. Other liquids, you probably wouldn't recognize it. You know, like if you leave a Coke bottle in there and you're really thirsty, so you drink it, you wouldn't necessarily taste, but you can definitely taste it with clear water. Chemical composition, the outside temperature, and how long the bottle has been exposed to heat means liquids could become contaminated with toxins. Toxicologist and board-certified emergency medicine physician Dr. Stephanie Widmer told ABC News. And there's several others, so I don't know of anything else in here.
It's talking about the broader things that are kind of explosive.
Yeah, certain containers, if they get too hot, they can actually explode. Most of them are tested beyond that kind of range, just sitting in a car, but if it gets extraordinarily hot, then yeah, they can still explode. And here's the oddest one, like you could be using an item, you put lotion on your hand or something like that, right? And then you leave it in your car, and then when you come back, it has swelled up, but you don't really realize it, so you pop that top off and all that stuff comes shooting out of there. It may not be so hot that it is bad for you, but it's certainly possible to make a mess. So yeah, and obviously don't put humans in the car and leave them there, particularly
or pets.
Yeah. Oh, and pets. Yeah. Anything living, don't just leave it in your car. I mean, that's really dense. Just don't do that. All right, got to move on. Next article's over in Non Sequitur News as well. Montana town's economy withers due to lack of affordable housing. It's almost like they're going to have to spray water on people that come to Montana. Maybe they'll go over to Wyoming.
I don't know. Not in their EVs.
That's kind of, yeah, that's true. Well, I guess nobody from California is going to be going to Wyoming. By the way, all that's meta from other shows that we do and this show that we do because, well, Wyoming doesn't care for evolving its electrical grid to support EVs. There are people in other tourist locations that are spraying people with water and putting giant mouse traps.
Right.
Trying to keep people away because the housing is getting outrageous. A Montana town's refusal to develop a centralized sewer system means no affordable housing can be built for working people. But it's not even that. I mean, it's not even tourism. It's NIMBY. Not in my backyard, ism. Sean Keane and Ceratos Osage? Sorry. I hope I am ruining that name. So send me an email, mayor@ohmTown.com, and let me know how to pronounce that properly. You'll have to do it phonetically. I'll try to remember, but apparently I'm getting older. The Missoula County community's reluctance to come up with a plan to replace its septic system means no affordable housing can be built for working people, while high-end septic systems can service multi-family dwellings. Local officials explain that they're not cost-effective for the type of housing developers would seek to build in the area. The solution? Only a sewer system will do. That means that they don't want that sewer system, which is going to keep people out, which is going to drive prices up. Says to make
which is going to tank the economy.
Yeah, golly. It's the cart before the horse. Stay out of my backyard or my front yard.
No modern development.
Yeah. I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry here. Missoula County was one. So what's going to end up happening is everybody is going to get older. All of the young people are going to move the hell out. And Missoula County is going to sit there and die off slowly until there isn't enough people to support it. And then people can come back and go, oh, look, well, it's a ghost
the
town.
other problem is the current residents, even if elderly, do require some businesses, and some of those may go away.
Pyramid isn't the only local business affected by the worker shortage. See, there you go. Rovero's Hardware is running on a skeleton crew, and it's probably because they're aging and they've been resurrected by the local witch down the street. Necromancer. There's a joke over at Dunkstar's channel on Twitch where he tells this joke, and he does it so good. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. But it ends with and resurrecting somebody. It's pretty damn funny. You'll have to go over. He's on every.
Had to be there.
Yeah, you had to be there. Just look up Dunkstar, Duncstar. It's so freaking hilarious. Anyway, and always a great show. So, D. Baker, who owns an antique store, Grizzly Claw Trading Company, said it's a long-term issue. No, it's not. It's a quick fix, and then the developers will have a sewer system where they can build apartments for people that can afford it, because housing is so damn expensive that somebody with 3 or 4 or 5 times the poverty value can't get a $150,000 home off of the salary. It doesn't make any sense.
But why has this been a dispute for decades? Like, it just seems, or I think it's decades, maybe it's just years, but either way, how long does this take to resolve?
Yeah. The irony is that the lack of the infrastructure is a big reason why Pyramid Mountain Lumber cannot find the housing for their employees and the employees to keep it going, and hence change is upon us. Johnson offered a glimpse of how much the town would lose once the lumber business closed. Our payroll just here to our employees is over $6 million a year. You take that out of this economy, it'll change the fabric of the town, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's a lot more in this article as I skim through it and talk with the Sentient AI. There's only so much that we can talk about, and I won't summarize or quote the entire article, so you'll have to follow the link through ohmTown over to ABC News, or you can do a search for Montana Town's economy withers due to the lack of affordable housing. But
the housing itself, I think, was not necessarily something that we see that's unique, right? We see that problem in certain areas, but I thought this town had a very unique and very fixable issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could either build the sewage system, or they have to somehow keep the prices so low that houses that are built can use a standard septic system. That's community driven all over the place. I mean, that's a dime a dozen. You build a house, you build the septic system. You have a big old leach field somewhere on the property, or a tank or whatever, and that's the way it goes. But they want apartments. Apartments have a population density, so you have to have a sewer system. That sewer system is astronomically expensive to implement. You have to treat all of the sewer water. You have to dispense that gray water somewhere after treatment. You have to process it, filter it, etc. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure there. But to sit there and go, well, the town needs people, but pricing is so expensive for the houses that we can't build regular houses. So let's build an apartment complex. Well, septic system can't support it. So they're kind of painting themselves into a corner. What they really need to do is just issue bonds and build the infrastructure that supports growth for the community, unless senior leadership in the community doesn't see growth. Plain and simple. If they don't see an influx of people, which it's a downward spiral. If no new people come to town because there isn't enough housing to support the people coming, you're not going to make any more money. You can't pay off anything. It starts to collapse because people leave.
Right. Well, and even the existing residents, not even the younger ones, like they can't maintain it because they won't have any way to get whatever it is, groceries or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know, whatever the cost of this is, it can't be more than the failure of the town.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. And that's something that I always say, you know, government can't fail. Businesses can fail, but government can never fail. The moment government fails, it creates a massive vacuum in direction, and then chaos ensues. And usually a small town never recovers. It just spirals into nothing, and a whole bunch of little cliques form, and the small town basically fades away. So we'll see what happens with this, because this isn't the only place that this is happening. This is just the one that's actually being publicly talked about. Moving on. Next article's over in Non Sequitur News. We only have 3 more articles, including this one. This one is the happiest union on Earth. I think I enabled... Yeah, the happiest strike on Earth is what I called this.
Oh, so nice. Do you think they're going to sing any of the Disney songs during the strike? Like if they pick it?
Yeah, like it's an empty world after all, because nobody's going to be working. Nobody's going to be able to show up to do the parks. So they're going to authorize a strike in California. So Disneyland, not Disney World. I don't know what the weather is in California right now. You think it's a really hot time to strike? It's
extreme heat.
Is it right now? Yeah.
Like in the last 24 hours, there have been weather alerts put out about it.
Oh, wow. So thousands of union workers in California could walk out as Disneyland workers vote to authorize a strike. Great timing during the summer and the heat. I guess they can stay in. Martha
during
McCarty.
High tourism season, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, strategically, put the pressure. 4 unions representing more than 14,000 workers at Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, the downtown Disney retail district, and Disney-owned hotels voted to authorize the strike in almost unanimous decision, with 99% of participating members opting for the walkout, the union said. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've never seen anything close to those numbers in a union vote.
Well, you might have people that are apathetic and they don't show up, so those don't count. So the percentages, I'd be interested to know how many actually showed up to vote.
All right there. You know. So it says this vote shows the cast members have had enough. Aaron Zarate, I guess is their name, a member of the Workers' Bargaining Committee, said in a statement, the vote does not mean the strike will take place immediately, with negotiations ongoing. The article, by the way, is over at newsweek.com, and Martha McCarty, again, is the author of this. If the strike does occur, it'll be the first at Disneyland in over 40 years. Then, nearly 2,000 cast members walked out for 22 days after the company said it would introduce a 2-year wage freeze and outsource jobs, while part-time workers would be denied health insurance. Billions of dollars in profit. And they screw over the people that are driving the engine, driving the bus. You know, it's fascinating just how sociopathic things can be. The walkout ended when Disney agreed to keep health benefits for part-time and seasonal workers, provided they work 20 hours over 5-day schedules. So, 4 hours a day, 5 days. The park also agreed to limit outsourcing to 10% for union work, but kept the 2-year wage freeze, which is just shit. Well, 40 years ago is the 70s, 80s. There was an oil crisis. There could have been problems. Since then, relations between the company and unions representing the workers have deteriorated again, and with the workers, which represent workers including custodians, cast members, ride operators, candy makers, merchandise clerks, entering into bargaining and negotiation with the entertainment giant on April 24th. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of data in this, but I don't know if it's something that
it seems like it's mainly economic, right? Like they can't afford to live there, which is interesting given the Montana article.
Yeah, for sure. Nobody can afford to live anywhere because people are raising the prices so that they take as much out of everybody else's pockets and consolidate it into the people that have the ability. Again, it's the suppliers that are raising the price, causing the consumers to lose so much that they don't have anything in their savings anymore. They're basically going, from paycheck to paycheck. And one out of band issue, you get sick, you're screwed. So the survey also found that 33% of workers reported experiencing housing insecurity in the last year, while 42% reported needing to miss work for medical treatment because they did not have enough sick leave. Some 64% of cast members are also spending more than half their monthly paychecks on rent, the union said when announcing strike action, which, by the way, if they have to requalify for their lease, if you spend more than a third, you have a really good chance of having to pay a higher rate, or not being allowed to rent the property.
Right, worse, yeah.
Yep. Sometimes they make you pay more in advance so that they feel secure that if you don't pay, they can oust you and they don't lose a full year or something like that. So it says, Good said, and that's a person, Good, said that the strike authorization is not unusual during a bargaining process and noted negotiations are still scheduled for Monday and Tuesday. Then they also said, we greatly appreciate the important roles our cast members play in creating memorable experiences for our guests, and we remain committed to reaching an agreement that focuses on what matters most to them while positioning Disneyland a resort for growth and job creation. Now, what matters most to whom? The customers? The guests? Because it's really the cast members that you should be worrying about at this particular moment. The guests will pay the price to go and see it for a considerable amount of people, but the cast members are the ones that are making that experience. So
correct. Without them, it's not even a draw, right?
Yeah, you don't have anything. There is no Disneyland Resort without the cast members that are the lifeblood of the organization.
Right. Think of the costume characters, for example, or people in shows. I mean, there's just so many. Yeah. It's different than experiences at other locations, I think.
Yeah. And in this particular instance, you're talking about a strike. You're talking about humans that are shorted in being able to be a part of the happiest place on Earth because you're trying to save nickels and dimes compared to the billions that are generated. So spread that wealth a little bit and make your cast members happy so that they can make your guests happy, and you're already charging them exorbitant rates. So we know that people will pay through the nose for fast pass type benefits on top of regular ticket prices. So I think that there's juice to squeeze there. And I think that they're squeezing the wrong side. They're squeezing the cast for marginal profit when if everybody is enjoying it, happy guests mean more people come because everybody's happy. No cast member is freaking the hell out because they can't make their mortgage payment. Anyway, let's keep going. We have two more articles. I almost ended right there. We have two more articles today. A Baldur's Gate 3 player has discovered hidden mini quests you can only get by leaving the most important items in the game in an exploding building or at the bottom of the ocean. What's really interesting about this is there's been quite a few interviews with the makers of Baldur's Gate. wherein they've said people haven't found a lot of the stuff, and there's a lot more content.
Isn't that fascinating, given how many people have played the game?
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 won PC Gamer's 2023 Game of the Year and the highest scoring review in over a decade and a half for a whole host of reasons, but its open-ended player freedom and attending reactivity to all of our potential choices is certainly up there. See, the thing about this game is that you can make choices that end up impacting the overall story, who stays with you, who will talk to you, how they'll treat you, the end game itself. So a year out from release, Proxygate Tactician on YouTube has uncovered a particularly absurd edge case reaction involving the Netherstones in a late game Iron Throne and Steelwatch Foundry dungeons. So the article was put together by Ted Litchfield over at PCGamer.com. And the deck statement says, we're still finding out all the ways Larian anticipated our deranged Baldur's Gate 3 behavior. So I'll just say that they squirreled some things away. That's kind of meta if you think about it.
It's also, I mean, it seems like it's like Easter eggs, but amped up. I like this, though. I mean, if you're going to have lots of people playing and for a long period of time, more game makers should do this.
So to avoid a potential soft lock on losing the stones forever, chucking them into a bottomless pit or something triggers a unique game over where the absolute wins and you immediately turn into an illithid. So don't do that. Larian, it says here, Larian's not in the business of restricting player control with unkillable NPCs or undroppable items, so you're free to take the stones in and out of your inventory. What happens is you get infected by an illithid, you're abducted, and you basically turn into an illithid. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. So if you don't, you're trying to get the illithid out of your system. And depending on how you do things, maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it never happens because you never finish the game. So it says here, they always show back up in the southeast docks of the lower city, but the exact details change depending on your actions. By default, they're carried out by one of the Sehuagin in the ambush that occurs in the area. Already killed them, no sweat. The delightfully named fishmonger Old Troutman, who otherwise has no impact on the game, found the stones and will sell them for a song. 3 gold for Proxygate and 2 for my high charisma paladin. And if you murdered dear old Troutman, like some of the kind freak, you can find the stones in a dead fish washed up by the shore. So you always get them back.
I only trust fishmongers that have fish species in the name.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. And use UPS to deliver, right? Smat.
Exactly.
That was old.
I think it's FedEx,
Lobsterman.
but that's okay.
Oh, was it FedEx? Yeah. Sorry, FedEx. Smat. Anyway, it says that's not all. The game has a unique response. If you drop the stones in the Steelwatch Foundry before blowing it up, a similarly ill-advised move that you'd only pull if you were trying to break the game. A gaggle of kobolds spawn at the south of the burning factory, with one of them having looted your stones from the rubble. You have 5 turns to kill them once you trigger the encounter, or else you'll be hit with that unique Lost the Netherstones game over. So yeah, there's a little more here. So I would go over, follow the link. You might enjoy the rest of this article.
It looks like there's some other items in here that you can try out.
Yeah, there are at least 24 ways for Shadowheart to force you into taking on the Astral Prism. In one of the options for this thing, you apparently can put Shadowheart in a crate. It's called shadow boxing. And it's some type of weird hack in the game. I can't remember what ends up happening, but anyway, I'm just gonna leave it alone because there's a lot of interconnections within this game that's fun to watch, but it pushes my limit of attention span. So kind of like that article. Let's go on to the last one for tonight. Non Sequitur News is where it's at. This is the second time CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz has been at the center of a global tech failure. I'm going to jump straight on over to Business Insider. Lakshmi Varanasi over at businessinsider.com put the article together. There is no deck statement, and here is apparently the CrowdStrike CEO going, yeah, that was me too.
So, I mean, if you have this happen, do you really go, we should install you as the CEO again?
And here's the kicker. It was nearly identical in its context too. So a faulty update from CrowdStrike caused a global tech outage on Friday. Basically, there was a file deposited apparently. That file needs to be wiped out for the system to recover and come back online. Some people can reboot and it does it automatically because it's a failed patch, and so it tries to recover. CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz has been down this road before, and as CTO of McAfee in 2010, just 14 years ago, which 14 years is actually a tremendous amount of time, but Kurtz was at the center of another similar tech debacle wherein, and I'll summarize this article, you can get more out of this article by going over and reading it. It gives much more context to it. But he founded CrowdStrike in 2012 after he left McAfee, right? Kurtz was McAfee's chief technology officer at the time when a patch was sent out that deleted a Windows file. Yeah.
Okay, so it is very similar, right? Like affected the whole set of computers in the world.
Yep. So on April 21st, 2010, the antivirus company McAfee released an update to its software used by its corporate customers, again, enterprise level. So all of the controls are basically under GPO control, under administrative control, enterprise level control, which means that all of the systems run based off of what one issued command would do. The updated file deleted a key Windows file, causing millions of computers around the world to crash and repeatedly reboot. Much like the CrowdStrike mistake, the McAfee problem required a manual fix. Kurtz was McAfee's chief technology officer at the time. So he founded CrowdStrike apparently 2 years after Intel acquired McAfee, or months after Intel acquired McAfee. But they apparently survived the McAfee botch of this update.
Apparently, or he was asked to leave around this was a pretty significant period of time. You'd think he would have been ousted immediately after, but it's also interesting because he was the CTO.
Right.
He probably had some connection to this matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's probably even more problematic than being the CEO.
Yeah, the CEO, you can rely on other people to perform functions that they're hired to do, and you're the one steering the ship and seeking outside investment and doing possibly being the public face in strategic moments and hyping. You basically hype up the company and its capabilities to big business to make some serious change. But CrowdStrike has 25,000 customers, from my understanding, around the world. So how did the alignment with Kurtz is what's so striking in this. So I guess, I don't know, nothing learned, nothing gained, right?
Well, I'm sure nobody around CrowdStrike today realizes he's connected to the McAfee issue. I'm impressed that they found this so quickly. Like, the CrowdStrike just happened. I think this was good that the media latched onto this.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, third time's the charm. I don't know. Maybe the third one is going to just end the internet and we'll go back to rubbing sticks together to communicate.
Do you think Kurtz's resume says something like, single-handedly
caused the two biggest...
Right, yeah. Well, I was thinking the first one, but sure. We got an update for the second incident.
I'm sure that he wasn't the one that met. So, for instance, I'm getting a button sent to me because I didn't have the parts to make it. But I'm getting a button sent to me so that I can remotely start a computer. Like, I just mash the button, it restarts the computer. And that's what he's got. He's just got this button where he pushes it and it sends whatever is in the hopper for an update out to everybody. And he's like, I wonder if this is going to bring it down. Let's see how fast it shows up on CNN. Or Non Sequitur News.
Or Business Insider.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Yeah, they do a great job of having pictures. I like that. That's awesome. Anyway, that's it, folks. We are done. So I'm going to reboot and reboot and reboot and reboot. I hear that it can take up to 15 times to get us back to the front. Oh, look, there it goes. All right. Anyway, Non Sequitur News, that's where we are. I am Mayor Watt. That is the Sentient AI's visualizer, and I probably can't promote this show either. So we'll see you tomorrow. You want to...
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
Bye-bye. Reboot. Have you turned it off and on again? Reboot.